Well, it's 7:01. I'll still add people in if I see them coming in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And I think I have like everybody muted except for Major Keating and I, just because sometimes we get feedback when we do this. And I think I have everybody's video off, but his and ours, just, for privacy reasons. So we wanted just to have, just an informational session, and we're going to record it and send it out for those who couldn't come. And the reason is we have a test coming up, and a lot of times people don't know the purpose and meaning for all the tests. So we just want to make sure that everybody understands, why are you taking this test? When do you take it? And how do you get ready for it? So there are some tests that are required to graduate. And one of them is the reading test, the FSA ELA, and that's for this year. There are concordance scores that you can get on that test, which we're going to get into a little bit more. On the ACT and the SAT, there's a certain reading score that you can get that will satisfy the need for the reading test. So also for the Algebra 1 EOC, which is required to graduate, you can get an alternate score on the ACT and the SAT and the PSAT. So we just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of the PSAT. They're required to take EOCs, which is the end of course assessment. They're taken in geometry, biology, and US history. 30% of the grade comes from that EOC. So you might have a B when the school year ends, and then over the summer you did really well in your EOC, and your grade might go up to an A because you did so well. The opposite can happen as well. These EOCs help us place you correctly. It also helps us make sure that we know that the teacher's delivering the content well. If you have a lot of students pass your EOC, you know you did a really good job. So it's good for teachers and students. But it mostly is for us to help track growth and learning gains. And so then we have the ACT and the SAT, which we mentioned earlier. And what these tests are actually for, their colleges use them for admissions. Not all colleges, but most universities will use them for admission tests, because the exact same test is given at the exact same time all the way across the country. So it's a very, very accurate measure of your performance as measured with your peers across the nation. So those tests are very, very highly thought of. So the state has allowed us to use those two tests for concordant scores for the reading and for the math. So for college, like Polk State and other community colleges may use the PERT. They don't use it for admission though, they use it for placement. They also use the SAT and the ACT scores for placement. So we always encourage our students that are signing up for the SAT or the ACT for the purpose of college to put Polk State down as one of the colleges to get the scores, because it's often a college that they're going to end up considering at the end. There's another test that will be coming up later on. It's called the ASVAB, and that is done for the military. There's a certain score that you need to enter each branch of the military. And there are sub-scores all throughout there, and it's an amazing thing. We won't get into a lot of detail on that, but all our juniors take this test, and the sub-scores determine which job they get within the military. So if they want to do nuclear weapons or something, there's a certain score they have to get in a certain area to be eligible for that job. But what this ASVAB really is an aptitude test. And so they can, whether they're interested in the military or not, it's a very informative test that they're going to take as a junior that will help them know, what their aptitude is. Some things they might not have even known about themselves, things that they might be naturally good at. So it's a very, very good aptitude test, helping them plan their careers. So that'll be coming up soon, and all juniors take it at Summerlin. So a lot of times people are worried, what if I don't pass the reading test or the Algebra 1 EOC, since they are graduation requirements? What would happen? So what we do to prepare is we put students in a class that is going to help them prepare. So if you take Algebra 1 and you don't pass the EOC, we don't hold you back. We let you move on in math. So you're going to go to geometry the next year, but we're also going to put you in liberal arts. And that liberal arts math, and there's liberal arts math 1 and 2. And those classes are designed specifically to make sure that you're going to meet all the benchmarks in Algebra 1, preparing you to take the test. And then if your reading score is below a 3 is proficient. If you score a 1 or a 2, we're going to place you in intensive reading. And we're doing that to make sure that we're addressing any deficits that you have in reading. And the test will be continued to be administered. And then once you get into 11th and 12th grade, that's when we start using the ACT and the SAT as a concordance score. But in the meantime, you have the PSAT. And so we want to make sure, you know, that you're aware. A lot of times people don't see the value in a PSAT, and we don't want them to blow the test off. So it's giving you the scores here. So on the SAT, you would need a 420, and then on the ACT, you need a 16. That's on the math section. And we have all these concordance scores written down, and your students will get them, and we can post them later. But just, you know, we really want to focus on more of like how to prepare and what are these tests for. So coming up October 13th, we give all of our 10th grade students the PSAT. It's done at school. If they get a 4, I think it said 420. I said the wrong number. It's a 430. That will satisfy the Algebra 1 EOC graduation requirement. Now they have to take that Algebra 1 EOC at least one time, but if they get their score on the PSAT, that's perfectly fine. And so we're also going to be giving this test to any student that has not passed the EOC with the FSA. So in other words, they're going to take it for free also. So if you're a junior or a senior on this video and you haven't passed, we're going to give this test to you for free. But now there is no concordance score on the PSAT for the reading. So it's not going to help you with the reading. So the SAT is the one they use for the college. So the PSAT is sort of an indicator of what you're going to score on the SAT. And the SAT is very helpful because it gets you in the mode and understanding what you're going to be tested on the SAT. There's 2 tests called PSAT, and they're exactly the same. They're just given at different times of the year. We've just always given the one in October. So it's not quite, it's almost the same as the SAT, but of course they know that you're in 10th grade, so you might not have mastered everything that you will have in the 11th or 12th. So it's just tapered down just a tad, but it's still a very good indicator of what you'll make on the SAT. So one thing that the PSAT also does is it allows you to be competing for scholarships. So when you take the PSAT as a junior, then there's something called the Merit Scholarship, which is a coveted scholarship, because if you get in the top like 3%, there's a certain percentage that they calculate every year. If you're in the very, very top across the country, then you have colleges beating the door down for you because you're in the top of your class all the way across the country. So the Merit Scholarship comes from the PSAT. The PSAT is required to be eligible for that Merit Scholarship. The test is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and there's no penalty for guessing, which means that you don't want to leave anything blank. So you're going to learn strategies for how to guess. And there's different theories on that guessing thing. Some people say that you're going to pick the same letter because at least 25% of your answers will be right. You'll read other things about strategies, but the main thing is you don't want to leave anything blank because it's not going to hurt you to guess. And the scale range on this test is 320 to 1520. And just to give you an idea of what all this means, if you make a 1330 on the SAT, then you're going to be eligible for the Bright Future Scholarship if you have all the other things that go with it, which pays 100% of your tuition at a state school. So people often wonder, well, what's a good score? Well, 1330 is a great score because you're not going to pay any, you're only paying room and board, or you'll also probably be getting other scholarships as well. If you're making a 1330, you're probably going to get a lot of scholarships, but for sure you're going to get the Bright Futures if you go to a school in Florida. So there's some benefits to it. We mentioned a couple already, but if you take the PSAT, you're going to do better on the SAT. And there's a couple of reasons why. Now you have a base. You know what the test is about. And then if you go on to the website, thecollegeboard.org is the website where you're going to find information about this test. Then you can link your PSAT to Khan Academy. Khan Academy sees what you scored and all the things that you scored low on, then it's going to refresh your skills, because it's often not that you don't know it, it's that you've forgotten it. So if you forgot slope or some sort of skill, it's going to go over that with you. Khan Academy, if you're not familiar with it, has really, really good instruction. It's a video with a professor talking to you about whatever skill they've identified that you need help in, and then it's going to prompt you to practice, and then after a little bit it'll prompt you to retake that test, but it's going to identify all the areas that you need to improve and give you a chance to improve them. Again, it gives you an increased chance for getting scholarships, and it can give you that concordance score on the Algebra 1 EOC. There's also some career planning tools on that website, and the PSAT is very helpful with that, so that you can use that test for a lot of things on the collegeboard.org website, especially if you're looking, to see what career you might want to do. So what's on the PSAT? Well, you have the reading, and then you have the writing and language test, and then you have the math section. So there's 3 main sections. So they're testing your academic skills that you've developed primarily through classes, through coursework. And these skills are the same skills that people have already identified as the key to success in high school, in your college, and in your career. In other words, a lot of the stuff that you're being tested on the PSAT is stuff that automatically is in the curriculum at school. So on the PSAT reading section, you have 5 passages, and there's 47 passage-based questions. You get an hour to do it. So these are multiple choice. So you're looking into the reading and you're answering their questions that way. Oops, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm messing y'all's screen up or not, but I'm trying to move these names around at the same time, making sure I'm not missing anybody trying to come in. So the passages are paired with other passages. Sometimes there's graphs or tables, but there's no math in this. And this is not testing you. Like if the question is about science, it's not testing your knowledge of science. All of this is testing your knowledge of simply reading, going back in to the passage and answering questions based on what you're reading. So how do you prepare for that? Well, you're going to get questions, often like questions that teachers will ask in class. So Ms. Stegman is our 10th grade teacher. All of our teachers know what's coming up, but for the 10th grade class, she's using some of the questions that are going to be on the test for like bell work. She has a lot of help. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get off the website for teachers to help her with. So she's using a lot of those questions for bell work. She's also making sure that she's using the vocabulary that's found in these tests in the classroom. And most teachers do. Like Miss Dumas, you can be real sure, is doing the same thing with juniors and seniors. All right, so on the writing and language, there's 4 passages and 44 passage-based questions. It's 35 minutes, and it's also multiple choice. There's also tables and graphs, and there's no math computation there. It might ask you to identify, what would have been a better word for this in the sentence and things like that. So that's how it tests your ability to write, even though you might wonder, how do you do multiple choice if it's a writing? So they're putting you in the role of an editor. So you're going to improve that passage. So it might give you some choices, and you're going to, give the best answer for how that sentence would be better, what word would be better. And then how do they prepare in class for this? Well, oftentimes they'll edit their own essays, or they will swap and they'll edit each other's essays. So you're getting feedback from the teacher and maybe a peer. And this is helping you identify what makes writing better so that you identify it in a test as well. And on the math section, and I'm going to let Major Keating talk more about the math because he is our math chair. And I apologize because I just realized I just went all into this and never said, hi, who I am. So I'm not ill-mannered. I think I was just assuming everybody knew, but I shouldn't have done that. But I am Deborah Brister, and I'm the school counselor. And then on with me is Major Keating, Derek Keating, and he is our math chair. And you know, we are always trying to figure out ways to, you know, to do things for our students above and beyond, because we truly enjoy what we do. So that's why we're here tonight with you. So he's the expert in math, but just so you know, on the PSAT, there's 2 test sections. There's 70 minutes, and they're also multiple choice. And then there's 8 that are grid-ins. So one part you can use a calculator, and one part you cannot use a calculator. And some of them, it mentions here, they're going to give you a scenario and then ask you several questions about it. So I think this is about the part where I probably should let him take over. Is that okay, Major Keating?
Yeah, that's perfect. Good evening. Again, I'm Major Keating. I've been at Summerlin for like a million years. I've taught every math class, and I think I teach every math class this year. But what to expect basically with the PSATs is you need that strong algebra foundation. That Algebra 1, Algebra 2 is great to have, but say 10th graders, you know, could be in that geometry. Geometry also is a bigger part of the PSAT. If you haven't taken geometry yet, maybe these are the little things that, you know, we can go over with your math teachers before the test anyways. Again, problem solving, as it says, strong command of foundational math. So it is that strong algebra foundation that we really do need for our PSATs. Math that matters, again, problem solving, data analysis, solving equations, inequalities, doing basic geometry theorems. What else? Again, the mastery, as you can see, that third one of the linear equation systems, which helps students develop key powers. Now, a lot of this, most of these kids had in middle school. I know we had the online or COVID years in the past, but again, that is that main 7th grade math, 8th grade math, you know, and then Algebra 1 should prepare you for this PSAT. Those main topics in there will get you that concordance score, all right, and should score you higher than most. There's not much Algebra 1, and then as most people know that take Algebra 2, a lot of those Algebra 1 topics are just reiterated over again, but just a little harder. What else was there? Other including kinds of geometric and trigonometric skills. So the students are now learning trigonometry, the basics of it in geometry. So again, we're hoping that they take geometry in their 10th grade year. That would help them most with PSAT, and I do understand that some of these kids won't take it till their junior year. But again, the little help that we can give them is what we're going to see later on in this presentation, and I can talk more about. All right. All right, so again, in general, math is linear, meaning me and our math team, we do vertical teaming. We help each other and tell each other what they have learned so that next teacher can build upon everything you know, that we've done. So from Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calc, Calc Honors, and then Probability and Statistics is in there, while Probability and Statistics is still part of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. But that whole in-depth course, again, is one of those things that our kids can take. Math for College Readiness is our senior level math class. Again, that's that Algebra 1 all the way up to Algebra 2. So a lot of the kids that are in that class just want to prepare for, their SATs, ACTs. That is that whole year-long course of everything that they've done. So practice questions. If anything that you can find for these kids for this PSAT, any type of practice questions, even their homework that they're doing this year will help prepare them for this test. And then obviously the students in liberal arts, again, they are learning their Algebra 1 skills, and it's there for their practice. As we know, we just need to reiterate all those things with Algebra 1. Those skills, just you use it or you lose it, is kind of what we say.
And I want to just hop in on the algebra. Some of you are in Algebra 1A first and then 1B, and some of you go straight into Algebra 1. And the reason that we have it divided up like that is if we see on prior math FSAs that a student is low performing in the algebra test, since it is a tested subject, we'll take Algebra 1 over 2 years. So that gives them 2 full years to prepare for the EOC, because they might need more time and more practice with the algebra. So that is why sometimes a student is in 1A and then 1B as opposed to Algebra 1.
All right. All right, so getting to what we can offer for them up to this PSAT date and all year long, honestly. Me and Major Crandall have talked to each other. Major Crandall is our geometry teacher and geometry guru. So if your child is lacking maybe in some of the geometry skills, that Monday from 2 to 3 would be great. Obviously, she knows all her math like I do. So, I mean, she can help you with whatever on that Mondays if you can't make Thursdays. Thursdays from 2 to 3 will be in my classroom. And I know Miss Brister will send out our room numbers and everything else, if I think she probably already has for this tutoring. But again, I will be going over that PSAT math, going through their booklet. I'll have practice tests for them. I'll teach them those skills that Miss Brister talked about, because this is a multiple choice. Some of our 11th and 12th graders find it a little easier because there's not the fill in the blank or the matching or the multiple answer, the things they see on that Algebra 1 EOC that they might get tripped up on. So again, that 430 component score can be achieved if these kids start coming, now. I mean, starting Thursday would be great to have them coming in and filling up my room and just us working on that math to get them where they need to be. And even if they need that geometry refresher, say they're in Algebra 2 right now, I would suggest Mondays, Mondays with Major Crandall. I know I have even sophomores in pre-calculus, so again, we do algebra skills, but they tend to lose those geometry skills a lot if they're not already in it. For the 10th graders that are in it, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for them. Again, all we ask is that they have a ride at 3, and be ready to pick up. Can anyone go even if they're not taking the PSAT this year? I was just looking at 2 of the chat questions, Miss Brister.
Okay.
We just have, yeah, can anybody go? Sorry, tutoring, yeah, anybody can go for tutoring. Even if it's not for PSAT, I do SAT and ACT for the juniors and seniors, and I just do regular tutoring. So if they're having a problem in Algebra 2, I'm there to help them. Obviously my own students know I'm there anytime for them, even more than Thursdays. But Thursdays, again, I really just try to stick to this. But if your student is having troubles or wants help with anything else, they just come see me and we can work out another day of the week to come. But after PSAT, that Thursday will be open too, if that answers that question. But again, yeah. You want me to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So our math district, they were able to put together a whole course on Schoology. It is amazing. I went through it right when I got the email about it. They created basically test preparation for all the 11th and 12th graders who still need the Algebra 1 component score or comparative score. Again, this will help them improve on the PSAT, ACT. I know it's not in there, but SAT it will help with. They have live office hours. I forget who it is. The two people, Claire something, and I don't remember their last names. Sorry, only first names. But again, they are amazing individuals and can help tremendously. And it's already started, August 31st through August 21st. The code, as you can see, is on this PowerPoint. All they need to do is join the course. They'll be right in their courses if they didn't already make that score. So they would click on it, join. I think they can even click on just join course in Schoology and then type in that code, which is even easier. So again, this Schoology independent test prep is something they can be doing at home. And then this would be great for them to do at home and then come on Thursday or Monday and be like, you know, Major Keating, Major Crandall, I didn't understand at all this math concept. You know, can we work on a couple problems for this? So coming in with questions is always helpful for me. I know it's always helpful for Major Crandall because then we got something to start with instead of me just kind of guessing, you know, what they may or may not need help with. So the less time we have to waste with that, the more time we can get to, you know, exactly what they need.
And that was sent out on Remind, I want to say about a week ago, this exact thing with the code in there and everything, and also the times and days that Major Crandall and Major Keating are staying after school. That's been sent, I think it was last week on Remind. Let's see, we have another question. For 10th graders, do you recommend Khan Academy to practice for the PSAT? Yes.
Yeah, and this Schoology, I think, is even a little bit better than the Khan Academy because it really just goes right at it, but both programs are great.
Now, you know, if you're taking the PSAT for the math, I would go with the Schoology like Major Keating said. And then somebody else said, my 9th grader was excused from the Algebra EOC in middle school due to COVID. Does he need to take it in high school? I think this is where it gets tricky, at least for me. They change things up so frequently that sometimes I'm almost hesitant to say. Do you know the exact answer for that, Major Keating?
I believed when they excused it, every single kid was still taking it, and only the seniors of that year were actually excused for graduation purposes. I thought the 9th, so if he's a 9th grader,
I think there was a 1 year that, and it may have been last year, that if they passed the geometry,
it counted.
It counted because they weren't able to take the Algebra 1, the Algebra EOC when it was supposed to be taken.
Hi, I have some information on that. I'm a middle school math teacher. If you want me to clarify that question.
Please.
Sure.
So they indicated to us, I teach geometry for my 8th graders. So they indicated to us that it's the past 2 years. If they passed the geometry EOC, they didn't have to go ahead and take the algebra EOC. Once they pass the geometry, they will get credit for both algebra and geometry in middle school. And this year, if they didn't pass the algebra EOC, they would still go into geometry. And if they pass geometry, then again, they will be exempt from the algebra. But if they didn't pass the geometry, that's where the problem lies.
Yes, you're right. Now this year, everybody that's taking the Algebra 1 EOC, because they're in algebra, you know, they're going to need to pass it. But it was because that test was missed when we went on lockdown, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for helping us with that. So there's personalized test prep from the makers of the test. So this would be for in general. Now, this is not necessarily to use the PSAT as a concordance score, but just taking the ACT or the SAT in general. ACT.org is where the ACT test is, and that has ACT Academy. And then on collegeboard.org, which is where the SAT, the PSAT, AP, and all that is the Khan Academy. And they're straight from the makers of the test, so you really can't go wrong with that, plus it's free. So best practices in general, and why we really wanted to have this presentation is you never want to not be prepared for any test that you take. A lot of students, when they take the PSAT, they don't realize the value in taking it. And some of them didn't realize that they could get the math score last year, and that's how they got it. And so it was kind of cool. So we want to make sure that all students know that every test you get, you want to be prepared for. You want to take practice tests in the same conditions that this test is going to be given. So if you're at home and you want to take a practice test, you know, you want to go in a quiet room, you want to set a timer and do it so that you get used to the pacing of that test, because there's two parts to being good at tests. One is the knowledge that you're being tested on, and the other is how well do you test and how well do you know that test, because they're timed, they go quickly, but it's just like anything else. If you practice it, you get used to it. And so when you go into the actual test, you're not nearly as nervous, you're very prepared, you're not going to have that whole anxiety, because you know what to expect and you know the pace that you need to keep to finish that test. Oftentimes people will say, I didn't finish. And if they say that, it's usually because they've not done practice tests under the same conditions that the test is. So that's really, really important. And sometimes when people are taking a test just to get a concordant score, they're blowing off other parts of the test. And you don't want to do that either. You want to do your very best on every part of the test, because the same test that you might be using, for instance, an ACT or an SAT, you might be using it for the reading, or you might be using it for your math. Well, you also might be using it to get into college. And you might not think of that at the time, but the same test can be used for that. And it can also be used in place of the PERT if you're going to Polk State. Polk State doesn't use it as an admission criteria, but they do use it as a placement. So it just saves you from having to take one more test, because they have access to your ACT or SAT score. So know the testing strategies. Those websites are good for them, but there's, you know, you've got Major Keating and some of these amazing teachers that can give you really good test strategies as well. So the takeaways, you know, just don't throw away a test. You know, every test is going to count for something, and you may not see the value at that moment, but the value may come later. Oftentimes when I'm doing junior or senior conferences and we're looking at tests, it's how I can determine, like, should I advise them to take that ACT or that SAT again? Are they that close to getting that test they need for the admission? Or are they just that close to getting the Bright Future score? So doing good on these tests and doing their best is really helpful for us, especially when we're trying to help them plan for their future. Again, you want to make sure you're doing practice tests and learning the test strategies, and then all the free tutoring that you can take advantage of, you know, is going to be extremely beneficial in the long run. And we're going to take some questions now, and I'm going to see, I think we have some more questions here. My 9th grader is scheduled to test again on September 20th and the 21st. What test will he be taking? Let me unmute you guys, because let's see, who is that? That is Victor Aguirre.
I know the reading and writing is the 14th, 15th, 16th. So my guess, that has to be one of the math.
Yeah, so I'm gonna unmute, or I'm asking you to unmute. I don't know if it's doing it. Okay,
Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, so yes, I received an email notification that he was scheduled to test. He did not pass his EOC last year by 2 points, but it doesn't specify on the email which test he will be retaking.
So
Is he
which
taking the
math,
PSAT,
what math was he in last year?
Algebra 1?
Yes, it's that test, because they wouldn't have him retake a middle school test. The only test they would have him retake is something that he needed to graduate. So so yes, it's going to be that Algebra 1. So yeah, so that's
So I guess I'm confused. Is it the EOC or is it the PSAT or is it the ACT? Like which test out of all of these is he taking?
He's going to be, I'm pretty sure that if he was in Algebra 1 last year, that what they're asking him to retake is the Algebra 1 EOC, which is what he needs. That's the test you have to pass to graduate. We don't have students in the 9th or 10th grade take the ACT or the SAT. They get prepared for that for junior and senior year. Now, all 10th graders are taking the PSAT, and 11th and 12th graders who haven't passed the Algebra 1 are taking the PSAT. If a 9th grader wants to take it, they can. You just have to pay for it.
Okay,
And
thank you.
then if somebody wants to take it that doesn't need it for the math, like say you're trying to qualify for the merit scholarship, so a junior that wants to qualify for the merit scholarship, they can pay to take it. We're giving it free to the students that are in 10th grade, because we do that every year, and then the ones that are in 11th and 12th that still haven't passed the Algebra 1 EOC, but others can sign up for it. But the retake that they're telling you about, I'm most certain that must be the Algebra 1 EOC. Okay. Now, let's see. I could, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. Oh, no, that was a question we already answered. Does anybody else have a question? I can unmute you if it's easier. I'm going to go ahead and unmute, and then that way, if you guys have questions, you can ask. You don't have to. I'm just giving you the option to, in case you have something you want to ask.
I'm gonna ask what the code was again for the Schoology.
Yes, so I can resend that tomorrow, the flyer. But here, let me go back. It was sent to you guys, and I want to say it was sent last week. But it's at the top of the flyer. I remember at the top of the flyer it said, I think it said Algebra 1 EOC or something like that. So
code in the 3rd bullet point.
Yeah, it starts with a Z. I think they're advertising this a lot of places. It might be even on the district website. I've seen it. I've seen schools put it on Facebook. So it's getting a lot of attention.
For the people who couldn't be scheduled to take the PERT this month, when will we get the information about when we can take it?
So the PERT is we don't use that anymore for the algebra. So the PERT that you're asking about is for doing dual enrollment, most likely, and they're offering it again in November. So the PERT test, when people want to take that, it's usually at Polk State, but we do try to offer it occasionally, because we do want to encourage students that have a 3.0 or higher to do dual enrollment. But Polk State requires a certain PERT score or an ACT and SAT score to be eligible to take dual enrollment. So that's why we offer that PERT on our campus. If I sent it out. If you wanted to do it sooner, you could do it at Polk State, and I can help you with that. But it'll be offered again in November. They promised me, because it filled up before you guys could get the test. And then somebody's asking, how do I join on Schoology? So did you get that information that you needed with the code there?
Just your student will be the only one who can join Schoology. Parents, I believe, do not have access to an account.
Right.
No.
Yes, he's a student. So, we thought it would just be helpful to kind of come on and make sure that people knew what to do since the PSAT is coming. And we tell you every year, hey, the PSAT is coming and here's how you can study. I often send out the link to collegeboard.org, but just wanted to make sure that everybody knew of the opportunity they had with the math score and preparing for other tests. My internet would not support my voice. Sorry. Oh, it's okay. You did quite well typing your question.
For Schoology, again, just go through the district website and you'll see the Schoology link, and then just your username and password that you have for your school account should log you into your Schoology. One of your teachers hopefully should have already showed you how to log into Schoology.
Yeah, everybody should know how to log in, because unfortunately in the day that we're living in, if you go on quarantine, that's how you're going to get, that's how you're going to keep up with your class, because your assignments will be posted there. One thing we didn't mention is that there are study guides, like paper study guides, that we have given to all the 10th graders. Now, Ms. Stegman has them, so she only has seen one class since she got them, so not everybody may have them yet, but everybody will have some study guides straight from collegeboard.org for the purpose of preparing for the PSAT. And then a student asked, if I didn't pass the Algebra 1 FSA, why can't I find my little, I can't move the thing. Oh, there it is. I couldn't find my little arrow. How do I add the core? Oh, wait, if I didn't pass the Algebra 1 FSA, will that look bad on my record? I'm assuming that you mean, does it look bad in your record to colleges? So they're really looking to see if you met the graduation requirement. If they want to see how you did, if you're talking about a college, if they want to see how you are in math, they're going to refer to your test scores, your ACT and your SAT. I wouldn't worry about that. If you have to take it a second time, I would worry more about my math section on those ACT or SAT tests. Do you have anything different to say to that, Major Keating?
No, I completely agree with that. As you said, it's a yes or no on your transcript, for Algebra 1. They don't know that you didn't pass it, or they didn't know that the PSAT score was used for, or for your components or comparative score. So again, yes, very much so. ACT, SAT, math scores are what they're looking for.
A student is asking, how do I add the course to my already existing courses on Schoology? He doesn't see a join option.
Yeah, the join option, I believe, is somewhere on the right-hand side. I'm not looking at mine right now. You should see like join class, like on your home screen on the right somewhere. If you are having problems, you can even come see me in the morning before formation. I'm in room 95-123 on the quad, and I could show you there if you need to, if you don't figure it out tonight.
All right. Any last questions or comments or feedback? All right. Well, it looks like either we did a really good job and they don't have too many questions, or they probably knew more than we did.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add in, I know that one question, that if they're doing a retake in September for the Algebra 1 retake, have them come to the tutoring, especially, I know you said they missed it by 2 points. Please have them come see me, and we'll help them. And because I can usually pull up the test scores and see what category, maybe they didn't do too well in, and we can really look at that and just boost up their grade in just one of the standards. So absolutely have them come see me or Major Crandall.
Oh, somebody said thank you was helpful. Well, thank you. We hope so. We miss seeing you guys, our parents, in person, and you know, so I know that digitally it's not exactly the same, but we figured it was better than not talking to you at all. So I hope that it was an okay option. And then somebody's asked, can you help us find the prep on Schoology? We kind
Maybe
of
I
just
could-
went over that a little bit, but if you're the student, ask one of your teachers. You can, and Major Keating's offered to let you come to his class before formation, and he'll help you access this that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I'll try to get something maybe to Miss Brister too, where it's a Word document and I can kind of go step by step of some screenshots or something.
Okay.
Figure it out.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. We'll do more sessions on things as we see the need. If you, as students or parents, have a need, if you feel like you need more information on something, you know, just let us know. You can text me on Remind. You can email Major Keating. You know, we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs and your students' needs. So I think the next one we'll do like this will probably be on community service, just so we have some clarity on community service as well. So there's a lot in high school. Your students will be getting information directly and already have gotten quite a lot of information directly, but we want to make sure parents know as well, because it takes all of us, you know, to make it work. So we appreciate so much those of you that came out tonight, and we really appreciate that students were on here too. We were hoping they would be. So anything else you want to say, Major Keating?
No, it's just that, you know, the math department's here to help, and I know the English department is too. You know, we just want to see them all succeed and not stress about, you know, testing in general. So, you know, between Miss Brister getting out all this wonderful information and, you know, all of us just trying to help out, just tell your students, don't be afraid to ask. They might not even have me, but I'm sure they know who I am on campus. So again, just tell them to come up to me and ask for tutoring. You know, same with Major Crandall, whole math departments like that. So again, any of us are willing to help. Appreciate all the questions, you know, and you know, hopefully I'll see some of you guys in tutoring Thursday.
All right. Well, thank you guys again, and let us know if we can help you in any way. And you guys have a nice evening.